أحمده واستعينه واستهديه واستغفره وأؤمن به جل وعلا ولا أكفره وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله الصلاة بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. All praise belongs to Allah. We praise Him, we seek His help, His assistance, and His guidance. We believe in Him and do not disbelieve in Him. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His servant and messenger. Allah sent Him, that is Muhammad, with Deen al-Haq, the religion, the way, the methodology of truth. This way of life known as Islam will rise to its proper position in this world, whether the mushriks like it or not. I'd like to begin with two little pieces. This looks like, was this article on the Muslims there in 2017 or 19? Or?
I can't remember the year.
Right.
That is the article though. That's the picture. Yeah.
Right.
That's it.
Can you tell, that looks like a 9 up in the corner. Is that 2019? Because it's 2021. Up in one of these.
Oh yeah, it looks like a 9, yeah.
That's probably, that's 2000.
Yeah,
2019.
Okay. Yeah.
I want to start though with something from my notebook. It looks like Friday, August 19th, 1983. That's August the 19th, 1983. And it has a few names here at the top, and it has an address and a phone number of Tallahassee, Florida. And then we have the address, phone number of brothers in Cleveland. And Cleveland states that this is the Mosque of Islamic Revivalists movement in Cleveland, Ohio. And this is of the same date, August 19th, 1983. Then we go down to the next one. It's called Grand Major Mosque. That's 3947 South Drexel, Chicago, Illinois. It has a phone number. And then it has, let's say I'll just mention the names. This place is called Pyramid Towers. It's also General Abdul, General Abu, and of course nobody would know who they were. Down at the bottom, those two addresses relate to our brothers in Chicago. This relates to our brothers in Chicago, and the names, this is when the Peastone Nation, Blackstone Rangers, you know, Al Rukin, who had become Al Rukin. You know, Al Rukin, the corner of Blackstone, but still they got technically they would still have their names of Blackstone Rangers, because Al Rukin is a corner of the Black Stone. So I mean, you know how colored people are. They gonna, you know, they got their stuff with them. But this Pyramid Towers was where they had just moved one of their centers to. And this is the first time I had seen, and when I'm outside the building, I'm looking up and I'm counting the floors. And it was between 16 and 20 floors. And this is the first time I had seen black people who technically owned property like that. When we went to the other places, they had big steel doors, and that means General Abu may be in charge of that building. And then the other one, General Abdul, you could see the way they hadn't got the full naming process yet. You know, because they got General Abu and General Abdul. Abdul is just a prefix to the name, it's not the name.
Right, they hadn't figured that part out.
Yeah, they hadn't got that far yet. You know, but they was on the move. Okay, I'm telling you, standing outside, I had to look up like this, and I couldn't see I could barely see the top of one of their buildings. And the other buildings, they'd have big steel doors where you couldn't just walk up and break in. And they would have, they were structured. When you went there, you go and they would answer the door. Of course, you got somebody with you. And then they'd introduce this General so-and-so. The general meant that he was in charge of one of those buildings. And I went to 4 or 5 places, and the smallest one was 10 stories. And so that means these Negroes was in pocket. In fact, they possessed more physical wealth than all the other. This is 1983. And we had the Riata in Atlanta, the sports thing in Atlanta. That's when I first met the brothers as a group. And they had they had the basketball competition. Now technically they won, but the umpires and everything was from down there in Atlanta. So, but they didn't take it bad, you know, they getting called out and all that. And they didn't take it, they just took it like, so I said, I like these brothers. Now at that time, the leader was not there with them, but the higher ups, they came, they brought a team, and this one they getting ready to join the community, you know, of Imam Jamil Alameen. They getting ready to join, and we're having talks. It's right here, we had a squat here and a squat there. That means we were all talking about this thing. So when I left when I left Atlanta, I made a circuitous route. I was still in California, so I stopped and hung out with them a while. And when you came, they had many properties, and they would show you their stuff, and they might have a couple of limousines, and this, you know what I mean? They wasn't riding around in limousines in those days, but they had them in case they need to make a presentation. So they had their limousines, and I said, they had property in Chicago. They had more property. I have never seen African Americans that possessed those 16 to 20-story building, 10-story building complex over here that they own. And the 10-story, I can remember the 10-story and the 16 to 20-story better, because I was making them as a judge. This is the tallest, and the other one was a standard. You know, 10 stories was the standard. And of course, the steel doors, and they had physical protection. When you went there, General so-and-so was in charge of that complex. That's why I had his name, General so-and-so. That person was in charge of that complex. And he had a whole crew there, you know, and it reminded me of some of the things that was going on before at a certain time. And this was just, they was trying to take one of their buildings, you know, at that time, when they started out, that was the first mosque. They was trying to take it. In fact, they did take it for taxes, and then one of the brothers went down and bought it back at the tax sale for a little or nothing. I mean, so they was rolling. That was the environment at that time. And then it goes on that they were moving from this Blackstone Ranger type, Al-Rukin type, you know, and I'll put it this way, let me revert for a minute. When I was in Leavenworth with Chief Malik, Jeff Ford, he was hanging around with the Moors, the Moorish Science Temple. That was his kind of,
introduction to it.
That was his introduction to it, and that's what technically he was, because that would fit the Negro mentality a lot. Just tell them where the Wooloo station is downstairs. So anyway, that since I was with I was at Leavenworth in around 75 with Chief Malik, and he was a very intelligent brother, and he was, I think he was in there for taking money from the government, like they give, when they started all these community revitalization programs. Well, they gave the Negro a lot of that money. So the Panthers were slow enough to take enough in California, then they took their stuff back, In other words, they gave the Negroes the money and they just signed. But in that contract, it said, you have to keep account and you have to have records of such and such and such, which they didn't have. That's why Chief Malik was in the penitentiary. Would you close that door just for us? Okay. So what happened was, they was putting Negroes in jail and taking their property and what have you. And they gave them that money to quiet them down. Since they came from a certain background, they thought all money was good money, which all money is not good money. No, all money ain't good money, especially government money. That's why I told them, I said, if you want to give me something, you can drive by and throw it over the fence or something. But I'm not signing nothing, I'm not acknowledging that you gave us that. I said, so we don't want, and then my friends in Oakland, big preachers, yeah, so we're going to get this money. We're going to hook you. I said, no, I don't want no government money. And they thought I was really crazy. I said, absolutely not. I said, we believe in independence. You know what I mean? Self-sufficiency. That's where we're coming from. What does that have to do with getting money? This is the way they look at it. And these are preachers. Servants of the Lord. They're right there right now. They're still there. And anyway.
That's the new hustle now.
Huh?
Which is the new hustle now.
Getting money from the government.
That's the new hustle.
It's new, but it's old.
Right.
Yeah, this is the.
Right, it's in style right now.
It's in style right now. Get money, writing up a proposal, right? Go down, say, boss man, we want to help the Negro.
That's right.
And we want to do this, that, and other, and here you go.
That's right.
And the government has said, well, all right, you sure as to have niggas? Yes, sir, boss. Niggas and Mexicans too, don't you forget now. This is people disenfranchised. Sign right here, nigga. Right, and you'll see them all on TV in 5 years. For what happened to a certain amount of funds. And so if they gave 10 of them funds, they might be able to put at least 3 or 4 of them in the penitentiary. Oh, there's no doubt about it. whatever it is, you won't see nothing happening in Negroville. You don't have to worry about that, except they might build some houses of their own in Negroville with that money. And drive, they don't drive cat, they may drive some of their cars up and down the street going through that neighborhood to somewhere else. But anyway, the Grand Major Mosque, I just wanted I was looking at some of my old stuff, and this is out of, the date book from 1983. Because I want to talk a little bit about if we were to start, let's say, around 1983 or 1980s, and then we were to look right here, the trauma and how bad that Negro felt. That was 2019. And then we were to stop right here. This is, y'all probably saw this, this is 1986 notebooks, 4 date books, it's 4 notebooks like this. I call it here, accordion folder missing, big victory. Now what I want to talk about today, of course, is what we call it, a long march and what have you. This is a long march. This is from back here, 1983, to this one, to 2019, whatever it is. But that brings us from there through all, see, we talk about the long march of China. The long march of China was it was a long march, it was about 6,000 miles. But our long march is over a period of time. Over a long period of time. And if we use the dates here, that's almost 40 years. That's 30 years. You got to think about what's happened in 38 years. Let's just, because we could add the same thing to 1980, 40 years. What's happened in 40 years, right? What have we went through as a community, if we just take us? Now, we mentioned all these types of groups. Okay, if we started off being very friendly with MSA, Muslim Student Association, if we started off being associated with Imam Jamil, if we started off being associated with Al-Rukin and all of these, if we were to just slow down a minute and just review, well, what happened to those people? Okay, if we would study Al-Rukin, they moved on them. They are brothers. You can see we like homeboys. In fact, they like me more than the other brothers because we were more alike. Like you can tell who you know what I mean? So when they showed us in limousine, I said, man, this is such and such here, this is that. And then they had iron. They had iron and they could use it, I guess they all been in the penitentiary 9 or 10 times. So we could drive iron together. They said, oh, Imam is, and so we, not the same, but very close. That's why this shows that and their goals were similar to ours, except the Grand Major Mosque it had strobe lights. It was kind of, on the way to Islam. They call it the Grand Major Mosque, but it wasn't there yet. You would think it was a nightclub. That's what you would think. Yeah, yes, you would. You'd think it was a nightclub. Right. But see, remember, they're making an effort. All effort is good. So we didn't come to and say, man, y'all ain't no Islam yet. With all that money, with all that power, and with all that organization, they had not matured enough to deal with the government. They were dealing with the government and they knew who they was dealing with. But they was getting on, their big mistake was getting on the phone from the penitentiary, talking about the old man, Muammar Gaddafi, and all this, on the doggone phone. So they had, for what they was dealing with, they had, each general was in charge of a whole building complex, which nobody, there ain't no African Americans in the United States had the property they had. None. Not even close, not even one building. That 16 or 20-story building they had down there, which was gonna become what they was called, this is our grand major boss. Oh, this is the grand, yeah, you know, come on in. I said, I don't know, but I was kind of just like joking, you know, and I couldn't tell them, well, you know, we don't go to nightclubs with shingles hanging down and stuff, but they was on the way. But now remember, there's two groups, and there's one that want to stay like what they're doing, and the other group want to go to Islam with Imam Jamil. And they are on the way. You can see them, and this is the time when Chief Malik had a case in Mississippi. He went down to Mississippi smoking weed. And look, if you want to miss the penitentiary, stay away from Texas and Mississippi, because in those days, they gave the same amount of time for smoke that they did for heroin and all that. They thought marijuana was the devil's creation. I mean, it wasn't like now, you know. And he got time down in Mississippi, because he's from Mississippi. He go visit his family, and he take a whole cotton sack full of smoke with him. This is insanity. I'm saying about our brothers, we do not want to overlook who we are and what we've been dealing with. So from 1983, up in the 80s, they had got them, all the leadership was immobilized. It was immobilized, right? Okay, and out of all the brothers in the United States, I would say they were the most, whatever they was doing, they was the most organized and the most disciplined. I mean, they had a structure, organization. Each person in charge of a building was in charge of that squad, in charge of that, and they acted like that. The general gave orders to the so-and-sos, they carried it out, and it was very admirable for what they was doing. Had they been allowed to